Good morning, Cambridge Springs Elementary. This is Mrs. Walsh bringing you this week's virtual art lesson. Let's get started. Materials that you will need to complete this lesson include a piece of drawing paper, a pencil, some sort of a black marker, a pair of scissors, and a glue stick. If you do not have a glue stick, it is possible for you to do this with tape, but a little bit more difficult. If you do not have a glue stick or tape, it is possible for you to do this with a stapler, but it will make it even a bit more difficult. So gather your materials and get ready to begin. Today's art lesson will end up being what I call a Susie or a Sam snowflake. To begin this lesson, we start with a blank piece of paper. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is fold this paper in half from bottom to top, so you are creasing it in the middle. Half of this paper is going to be turned in to all of the pretty little snowflake shoots off of the face of the snowflake. The other half is for you to make the face of the snowflake. So using your scissors, cut your paper in half. Set half aside, use one half. Find something round you can trace. You could use a pop bottle. You could use any sort of a circular lid from a yogurt container. I have an orange juice lid from frozen orange juice. I'm going to place that on one of those pieces of paper. Using the pencil, I'm going to hold it steady and trace around the circle. When you are looking for something to trace, you want the circle to be about the size of your palm. You don't want the circle to be so big it takes up more area than that. You don't want it to be so small that it doesn't cover the entire area of your palm. So that's about right, because when I put my palm over it, it covers it up. Now, to cut the circle out, an easy way to cut things is, instead of trying to cut it out, cut around it first. That gets rid of all that excess paper that can get in your way when you're cutting. This is scrap, so I'm going to set it aside. Now I'm going to do a little bit more detailed cutting. Cutting a circle is challenging because you want to keep the blade moving on the curve so it doesn't make a sharp edge anywhere. You need to keep the scissor blades moving, rounding around that circle as you cut to make a pretty nice looking circle. This is also scrap. I will set that aside. This is going to become our Susie or our Sam snowflake. I used a black permanent marker to make the faces. If you want to do more of a boy's face, you just don't add the pretty long eyelashes. So I started with eyebrows, 2 eyes underneath, pretty good size ovals, smaller oval inside for the pupil. And I put some highlights in the Susie snowflake. I did not do that for Sam snowflake, but you could either way put a highlight in the eye for a realistic effect. The nose is just a curve. And then that very happy face starts as a dimple on one side, curves down and up, and starts as another dimple on the other side. If you want to turn it into a girl, we just lengthened the eyelashes to do that. But if you did not want it to be a Susie, you wanted it to be a Sam, you just don't need to add the eyelashes. So we will set those aside for later after we build the rest of the snowflake. This piece of paper is going to become the rays of the snowflake, the beautiful lacy areas. First thing I need you to do is very carefully, we have 2 short sides, put them at the top and the bottom, and the longer sides are side to side. Take the paper from side to side like a book or a card and fold the paper in half one time. Try to make that crease nice and sharp. Open this up and using your scissors, cut on the crease so you are cutting that piece of paper in half into longer, skinnier rectangles. Take one of those pieces, carefully crease that paper down side to side. This is a little trickier as the paper gets thinner. Crease it. We're going to do that to this one as well. Once you have both of those creased, cut on the crease so that each one turns into two skinny rectangles. That turned into two. This turned into two, which means 2 plus 2 equals a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we need to cut each one of these in half, but it would be awfully difficult to fold those in half. So this is where you got to use some of your art smarts. Hold off to the side and pinch it on the long side between your thumb and first finger. Take your scissors and find halfway, about there, and carefully cut the thin rectangle into 2 thin strips of paper. So from that strip, I got 2. I'm going to do that here and again with the other 2 as well. When you are done, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strips of paper. We need to cut these in half as well. Find the middle, slowly and carefully cut 4 strips in half and stop. 1 cut in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skinny strips. Take 4 of these skinny strips and try to place them one on top of the other. I tap them down, I try to get them to line up. I'm going to take them and I'm going to put the top and the bottom together. 4 strips. You could do this 1 strip at a time if that is too difficult. I'm going to take my scissors to the top of the loop and pull tight and cut those in half. So now I've made 8 half strips. I'm going to set those aside. I need 2 of these. Line them up. Fold them in half. Notice I'm not creasing them in half. I'm using the blade of the scissors to pull up and snip it in half. Now, I only used 2 strips this time because once I have them folded in half and cut, I need to do that again. So these will be half the size of those. Pull up, little pressure, snip. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 short strips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the longer strips, and 2 super long strips. These extra wider strips you do not need, those go in scraps. You're going to take each one of the 8 half strips using your glue stick. Lay the strip in front of you, put a little bit of glue at the top, put a little bit of glue at the bottom. Take the strip and place those 2 areas of glue against each other and pinch so the glue holds, but you have this nice big teardrop loop open. You don't want to smush it down and crease it. You need that to stay 3-dimensional so it pops up. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to do that with all 8 of these. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take the 8 half strips, and we are also going to do that with all 8 of these. Top, bottom, roll forward, pinch it together. This makes a much smaller teardrop, but it still makes a teardrop. We need all 8 of those glued as well. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 small teardrops. Now, 4 of the larger teardrops are going to stay just like you have made them. So set 4 of these off to the side. Take the other 4, and each one of these 4 is going to get 2 small teardrops glued at an angle, so it makes it look sort of like an arrow. I take glue, I put it on the glue end of my large teardrop. I put glue on the end of one of my small teardrops and place it at an angle and push down so that it is attached. Then I put a little bit of glue on the other small teardrop and place it at the opposite angle, like so. So when they are glued together, it makes an arrow. Large teardrop in the middle, 2 small teardrops on the sides. And you're gonna do this for all 4 of these. That will use up the rest of your small teardrops and look like this. 3, 4. You will still have your 4 original teardrops that were not used for the arrows and your 4 arrow teardrops. To complete your Sam or Susie snowflake, take the circle with the snowflake face on it. Think of this as the face of a compass that tells you north, south, east, and west. If you look at the nose, north would be straight up above the eyebrows. So I'm going to take one of the fancy arrows. I'm going to put glue over top of where the 3 pieces of paper are glued together. I'm going to lay it underneath the snowflake in the north direction at the top between the 2 eyebrows and push down until that arrow is attached. I am going to take a second arrow. I'm going to put some glue on the tip of the arrow. I'm going to go right off the side of the paper. I'm going to place that snowflake arm under this side and push down until that is attached. I'm going to take an arrow and place it directly under Snowflake's chin. That would be the south direction. Carefully pick it up, place it, and push down to attach. And then one last fancy arrow, glue, place on the opposite side and push down. Then, after you have all 4 arrows placed, you still have 4 more teardrops. These simply fill in the gaps between the arrows. Those would be different directions on a compass. It would be southwest, whoops, and southeast, and northeast, and northwest. And there you have your adorable Sam or Snoozy. So I think I said Snoozy. Sorry, Susie Snowflake.